Good morning, YouTube. It is your guy here. It's Sleeve DS. My name's Matt, and today marks my 3-week post-op, and things are going pretty well. Kind of gotten caught up in the madness of the scale. I do weigh myself every day. I don't recommend it, but I'm an addict to the scale. I like to see the progress every day, and it gets exciting when you see, a couple of pounds come off the scale from one day to the next, and it gets pretty discouraging when you don't see anything happening. And that's kind of what happened to me this week. Actually, compared to the week previously, I had a pretty good week. I lost 3.4 pounds this week, down to 309.2, which is great. The only bad thing is I've been there since Saturday. Today's Wednesday. So I've been there for the last 4 days and really haven't moved. I've fluctuated by like a couple 0.2 or 0.4 pounds here and there. I really think that part of the reason for this is that on Saturday, I've mentioned before that I'm a soccer referee, and I got an email Friday night saying, hey, we need some help on Saturday. And I hadn't signed up for any games last week or this week. And I thought, I can probably get out there and do some games. The problem is they don't tell you, well, maybe they did tell me, that they were going to be age 14 to 15 boys games. And those guys can run. I don't know how many of you know 14 and 15-year-olds soccer players, but they can run pretty well. And I didn't sign on to be the center referee. I signed on to be the side referee who has to run up and down the sidelines. And you have to keep up with the speed of play in attacks. Anyway, that pretty well put me to the test. Saturday was an interesting day. Luckily, it wasn't too hot. In fact, it was a beautiful day. I really enjoyed being out there. But to do a game, the 14-year-old game was 2 35-minute halves, and the 15-year-old game was 2 40-minute halves. And by the end of the second game, I was feeling it. I didn't have any energy left. I wasn't sure I was even going to be able to make it through that second game. So it was a little bit tough, but as I'm getting older, the other thing that I struggle with is my knees. And I came home and I just crashed for a while. And I wasn't in excruciating pain, but I noticed my knees will swell after I do something like that and take a good pounding, which is why I want to get the weight off, right? So the interesting thing is that I lost 2 pounds of water weight. I weighed myself that morning and I got up when referee came back, and even though I drunk 40 ounces while I was at the games, I still weighed 2 pounds less when I got home. So I'd sweated off 2 pounds of water. Well, that all came back, and actually I knew what was going to happen, is that my body goes into recovery mode. It holds on to fluids. My knees are slightly swollen, so that's probably going to negate my weight loss. Anyway, so I really haven't budged since then, and that's fine, I guess. I have to keep reminding myself that with this revision, the weight loss is going to be slower than it was with my sleeve initially. So I'm not going to be dropping 5 to 10 pounds a week initially like I did before. I'm going to be dropping 2 to 3 pounds a week, and I have to be okay with that. The hard part too is that you get forecasting, and so I started forecasting of where I'm going to be in a month, 2 months. I've got a daughter getting married in 2 months. Where am I going to be when her wedding arrives? Things like that. You start trying to anticipate where you might be when, and that was okay, or that's okay, but it's difficult in that you set up some expectations for yourself, and when you don't see yourself meeting those expectations, it becomes discouraging. So I did this when I had my sleeve surgery. I had it all forecasted out, right? I had it forecasted out to where I was going to be in 6 months, 12 months, a year and a half, whatever. And you start slowing down, it starts becoming discouraging, and then eventually I stopped losing. So anyway, I don't want to get too caught up in that. I have found my appetite a little bit greater over the last week. Not that I'm hungry, but I find myself, it's just easy to get back into other habits of snacking and wanting to snack, and I really need to change that about myself. One of the things I read a post last night talking about, I guess it's on the Duodenal Switch Facebook page, one of them, and somebody was talking about how you have to really change your mindset. And this is a tool, and I know all of this. I don't think I really accepted it when I had my sleeve surgery, and I'm very much accepting it now. And I have to change the way I eat. One of my worst habits that I've mentioned before is grazing. Not eating a whole lot, but picking, walking into the kitchen, eating a couple of crackers or a handful of nuts or something like that. And it's nothing that taxes your stomach. As a sleeve patient, you can easily handle that volume of food. The problem is if you're doing it every hour, you are taking in a lot of calories, especially if you're using something high caloric like nuts or something like that. So even if they're good foods, this isn't a good habit. And what I found myself doing, and I believe the biggest reason for my regain, is I wasn't snacking on carrot sticks or cucumber slices. I was snacking on crackers and other high carbohydrate type things. And even though I wasn't eating a lot of them, I was still eating them, and I was eating them consistently. And one of the things I looked into last night after I read this post was a guy named Dr. Jason Fung, and he's up in Toronto, Canada, and he does he's a very successful doctor at helping people treat type 2 diabetes, and he's written a book called The Obesity Code, which I plan to read soon. But he is a big advocate of regulating the insulin levels in your body, and I think that's really, really key. And basically he's saying, he addressed this very thing that I struggle with, which is grazing and eating so often. And he thinks that the current mindset of eating every 2 to 3 hours is wrong, that we need to get away from that, because constantly we're putting food in our mouths, and this is sending signals to our body that, hey, you need to be storing this food. And especially if it's got a high glycemic load or causes a big insulin response, then it goes up, we become insulin resistant, and therefore this affects leptin, and leptin tells our body to hold on to our fat, and essentially we end up just storing more fat. And this really just resonated with me, that I need to rethink about how I do things, how often I eat, how much I eat. So I plan to talk about this with the dietitian when I go in. Normally it would be next week, but I think I'm going to be out of town next week, so it'll be the week after as my 1 month post-op appointment. So that's kind of rattling around in my head today. The other things that he talks about are also artificial sweeteners. I don't use a ton of them, but I know that, for example, my protein shake, it's got it's sweet, and I know it's maybe got a little bit of sugar in it, but it's got artificial sweeteners in it. I drink a lot of water every day, but I usually put either some Mio or some Dasani in there to help out with things, help out with the flavor, and make it so I want to drink. I don't know and so one of the things I want to look into is, because he really didn't get into this too much, was the effect of artificial sweeteners. Is the body's response in terms of insulin the same, even if it's a artificial sweetener? And I think, I don't know yet, I'm gonna have to look into it, but if this is the case, then we're certainly not doing ourselves any service with the artificial sweeteners that we have around us every day. So anyway, just some things to think about that way. But yeah, my diet's been okay. I think I've tried to maintain right around 1,100 calories a day, so that's good, I guess. I've probably gone over a little bit more. It's about 1,200 to 1,300. So, but it's interesting, because if you listen to Dr. Fung, he says calories don't matter. Your body doesn't know what a calorie is. It's just a way to measure food. And so I guess you just have to keep it that way, that it's a way to quantify food. And so you keep track of how much you're eating, but to him, it's what you eat and when you eat it. It really matters more than necessarily the number of calories that you're eating. But for now, we'll look at that in terms of what I'm eating. But this is definitely going to be part of my journey going forward. I think that's pretty much it for today. Like I said, 3 weeks post-op, down 3.4 pounds this week. Hoping for a good week this week. I'm going to try not to push it so hard. I do have 2 soccer games on Friday that they're little kids, so it shouldn't be too bad. And then, like I said, I'm out of town next week, and that'll come with its own set of challenges. So next week I'll be making this video from the road. I'll be in Texas, and it should be a fun little trip, although it's just really unfortunate now to go to Texas and not be able to partake of all the the wonderful food items that Texas has to offer. So that's unfortunate. Anyway, I think that's it for today. I'm doing well, feeling good. Oh, the other thing I got to mention though is, oh my gosh, the gas. The doctor kind of mentioned this a little bit. Oh, you might have, some foul-smelling gas. It's just how it is. Take Devram. I had no idea, and I've been trying to. I actually have upped my intake of Devram to try and combat this, and it worked a little bit better yesterday. But it's truly going to be trying to figure out which foods cause me issues. Luckily and thankfully, it's not during the day. The gas seems to be okay and stay under control during the day, but at night, oh my gosh, my poor family, they've just got to be dying, and I know they're dying. And so anyway, I've desperately trying to figure out a solution to that whole thing, because I didn't realize that side effect was going to be as big as it was. So I have to learn to control it through diet and maybe some over-the-counter helps like Devram. So anyway, just word to the wise, if you're considering the surgery, just know that stinky gas is going to be part of the situation. So just word to the wise. And do I have regrets? No, I still would have done this, assuming that I get good results. The gas is bad, but I think it's going to be manageable. We'll figure out a way to manage it. So that's it. Have a good week, everybody. Get your protein in and stay away from the bad carbs. Talk to you.